What's up, everybody? Good morning to you. I got up about 5:45 this morning to a major thunderstorm. Well, major for Portland anyway. It's been pretty nice, and I woke up last night at about 3 in the morning and to some pretty loud thunder. Woke everybody up, and went outside just to see it kind of passing by. So I came back in, went to bed. I really love lightning, so I'll stand there and watch until I see a bolt of lightning. I got my camcorder, I'm all fumbling at 3 in the morning. And then got back up at 6 and there was another one. And it's funny because it kind of ties in with the video that I'm doing here, and I didn't really intend for it to, but I got up and took a shower and I looked in the mirror and decided to look for some white hairs. Something I've never done, really. I don't care if I get white hair. I'm not concerned about aging. It's I think one of the easiest fears to overcome if a person's just aware of why they fear it. And I can't speak for everyone, I can only speak for myself, but I think in general people fear getting old because they fear dying. And they fear losing the capacity to do the things they want to do. That makes sense, of course. And you start to see some gray hairs when you get a little older, and, you panic. Now, I had a friend that was balding when we were in high school. When he was a sophomore in high school, he was balding worse than my dad at like age 40. And felt so bad for the guy, He's such a nice dude, He's a good-looking guy. He's had girlfriends. It's not like he's, suffering because of it. It's just, one of those things, You're going to be looked at people in school and high school, like, oh, the bald guy. But there's also people in high school who would tend to get gray hairs really early. Some people start getting gray hairs at like 20. My dad started graying and balding just out of high school, or in high school, I guess. And when I was a kid, my dad was, in his, say, 30s. He was pretty much half bald. He had the little patch on the top of his head. And I was always under the impression that would mean that I would go bald. But of course, after learning more, I realized that they skip generations. There's many generational and genetic reasons for why we gray, why we bald, what color hair color we have. And we know all that now. But the question comes to graying. How much graying is genetic? And, I noticed a few gray hairs in my beard. And I'm almost 40 and I'm getting my first gray hairs. And I don't mind it. That's a pretty good age. That usually starts with men around in the 30s. But I started doing this research into whether stress really causes gray hair. And the reason why the lightning and the thunder this morning tied into it is because just as I was getting ready to do this video, I was listening to the thunder and I realized that when lightning strikes a person, there's always reports that a person who gets struck by lightning, it turns their hair white. And then I found this article about Mary Antoinette, and before she was executed, supposedly her hair turned gray overnight. There's a few, like 2 or 3 reports of this, and people who were about to be executed whose hair supposedly turned white overnight. Now, of course, we have no real evidence of this, just story. But there are conditions which can cause this quickly. Not necessarily, they're asking, is it the stress of the execution? And nobody really knows, because in modern day they haven't seen this happen very often. I don't know how many cases have been recorded, but the question is gray hair caused by genetics? Yes, to an extent. Is it caused by stress? Yes, to an extent. And here's what I found out, is that living a stress-free lifestyle, relatively stress-free, can change when your hairs start to come in gray up to 10 years. So if you stress, you might come in 10 years earlier. And there's a few different conditions that can be the cause of this. Some people have said that they'd had hair issues and they found out that they were taking too much iron and their hair was falling out, stuff like this. There's many different things that there's a condition where here's where stress, I guess, ties into it. When you're under stress, it creates a nice place for free radicals to reign in your body. And if you're under extreme stress, sometimes it will it will turn your blood cells against your own hair follicles. So your white blood cells will begin to attack your own hair follicles. And this is just one little chemical reaction in your body from stress. Just one. I mean, if stress can turn your hair white, that's a very visual cue. That's one that people will notice, you know. But if stress makes your teeth rot, if stress makes your skin rough, if stress makes your, you know, gives you problems with your organs or something, you might not know the cause. You know, some people can go to the doctor over and over trying to figure out what's wrong with them, and in the end, it might be their own stress just destroying themselves from the inside out. And I'm definitely not one to, I guess I can't really say live stress-free and go your own way and do your own thing, because the fact is we have to remember to incorporate the stress of others around us into our life. So we can either go off on our own and be stress-free by just leaving everything behind, or we can continue to function in a family or a group or whatever unit you have and realize that there's going to be stress. There's going to be stress with other people. There's going to be stress in life. If you have a job, if you have any part of society, as we call it, you're going to, excuse me, you're going to have to deal with stress. And so the only way around it is to change your mind. And then you get back to that old saying about change your mind, change your life. And it's so cliche, but it's so true. So I'm just going to say about 6 or 7 years ago, I was under extreme stress. I would have, not necessarily, I never really had panic attacks, so to speak. But I guess now looking back on it, that might be what they were. You know, moments of waking up in bed in the morning, not being able to get back to sleep, freaking out about something at work that needs to get done or a bill that needs to get paid. I sat down beside myself and I said, what are you going to do about this? You know, you're only like in your early 30s and you're stressing over things that aren't even an issue. What are you going to do about it? And that's when I decided to change my view on things. And I think this is why, I guess why, maybe why I'm so much more tolerant than some about the way that things are. And why I don't really complain too much and say, you know, even though I know that we're all being wronged and the land is being raped, corporations are taking advantage of us, the elite are trying to keep us as slaves, and all these things that are happening, I guess the reason why it doesn't bother me so much is because I don't let it. I don't let it stress me out because I know it's something that's out of my control. I don't let it ruin my view of humanity because I know that most people are good. And like Lobo made a response video yesterday to the one I'd made about social programming and how, you know, to a degree we accept it for what it is. It's not really programming, it's just who we are. And fighting against that, I think, can cause even more stress. In other words, fighting against our human natures, fighting against our true feelings can misdirect some of our emotional angst onto other issues. So if I find myself really pushing and resisting against one idea, or if I find myself really harshing or bashing one group, I would ask myself, what is it in me that's causing me to do this? This is my personal take. For example, you know, I'm not a Christian. I can't stand it when Christians try to push their belief on me. I can't stand it when other people can't accept that I just have my own belief system. But I don't let it anger me or stress me out. I just say, you know, this is how it is. People are always going to want to push their views. Another approach, if I was angry about it, would be to seek out, say, Christian videos and say, oh, you're a bunch of you know, idiots, you don't know what you're talking about, and your Bible's bullshit, and, you know, you can find the power within yourself, and that just causes more stress to go out and rebel against something that causes stress initially. So if a person is fighting with faith in themselves, let's say, they might be more likely to go out and harsh upon those who have faith. If a person has just recently, let's take the quit smoking guy, or the guy that quit drinking, you know, he's instantly out bashing smokers and drinkers. Not always, but you know what I'm getting at. That we tend to resist against things that make us uncomfortable and things that stress us out. You know, so often it's not an issue of what a person does that stresses us out. It's not what other people do that make us angry. It's seeing other people do things and asking ourselves, should we be like that? Can we change this? Should this person be able to do this? We start analyzing the situation and say, you know, if you start picking it apart, you start seeing that there's little hidden reasons why people do things, even the harshest, some of the harshest things. But more than that, it's about realizing, I guess, that when we fight against the current, we're only fighting ourselves. So stress comes often from one's lack of ability to integrate. So the more we resist against each other, the more we resist against the way things are, the more stress it causes us because we want to escape it and we can't. Now, there's no way out of this system that we live in right now unless you decide you want to move out of this country, at least the U.S. I don't even know where you would move at this point. You know, there's nowhere left with free land. It's not like it was. And this is why there's it seems to be a lot of stress caused by people saying we should go back to the way we were or go back to the way that things were. But after studying history and reading philosophy, I realized things were never that way. There was no time in history where everything was just fine. And it was even worse, and it was even under stronger control back then. You know, you think that we're being controlled now? I mean, sure, you can be shot, you can be killed, you can be tortured in today's society for knowing or saying things. But generally, most people are able to speak out, at least in my country, without fear of being, you know, burned at the stake. And it wasn't always this way. So when we look back on these peaceful societies that seem to have it together, the reality is that they were under extreme oppression. Every one of them. You know, the Romans, the Greeks, you know, you know, even the Egyptians, I'm sure, had their issues. But we romanticize history so much. And I've observed this over the years, like watching how people attach to their view of history instead of what history actually was. The view may be just from reading a few books or maybe watching a few shows about ancient Mesopotamia. Think, oh wow, we have a few rock carvings that show that these people believed in this and this, so they must have been peaceful, nature-loving people. Meanwhile, there's sacrifice going on and everything else. Blood sacrifice to the gods, and you know, people have always been this way. So I guess what I'm getting at is that so much of the stress today is caused by our inability to integrate into our own society. And for me personally, and this is only my take, I've realized that when I fail to integrate with society in any one way, it's my own loss, you know, not theirs. Because for me to say, oh well, it's their loss, that would be my younger egotistic self coming out, you know. Sure, when I was 18 to 25, I knew everything. I had it all figured out, you know. Nobody could tell me what was wrong. I knew everything. I had it all figured out, man, and no, I didn't think I had all the answers to life. I know how to live, you know. It's about this, it's about this. And as you get older, you become more humble, and you start to realize you're pushing against the current when you're trying to keep things the way that they are. or when you're trying to change them into something they can't be. So I think that my stress level has been minimized over the last 5 or 6 years by just accepting, but not passively accepting and saying, oh well, you know, people are being wronged. You know, I speak out, and I feel like that's my part. Like when I make my videos, you know, it's obvious to people who watch them that I, you know, have strong opinions about certain things. The key to that is, for me, I'm able to change those opinions the next day if someone can provide evidence to show me that I was wrong. That's a major component of stress, is trying to hang on to things that you cannot confirm or prove. Now, if you want to put faith in the back of your mind and believe in something in particular, and then just let it sit there on the shelf, then that's fine, and that can help people and assist people. Say, you know, a faith in Christianity. There's nothing wrong with that, so long as you're not so uncomfortable with your own beliefs you have to go pushing them on others. Now, often this will be said, well, I'm just spreading the word, or, you know, I'm just telling people, you know, because I want them to be saved. I can see right through that and realize that most of the time it's not about helping anyone else, it's about proving oneself to be right. Because as soon as you make an argument against the point of view, then the person gets all mad about it. So, and I'm just using Christianity as an example. This is everything. Sometimes I'll go to see a video about how the New World Order is taking over, and they've done this and that, and it's ethnic cleansing, and they're gonna, you know, wipe us all out. And I think, okay, all that's possible. And then somebody says something along the lines of, you know, that they're trying to kill us off with nanobots that soak into our skin and control our minds and all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, 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 back up a minute here. Okay, I can believe all the rest of this, but that one is possible. But really, I'm not going to worry about that because there's no real evidence to show that it's true for me. And then they start telling you you're asleep, you're ignorant, and they start fighting against it. Why? It's because they believe something so strongly. They have faith in their belief in a conspiracy, let's say. And so instantly you're cast out. It's just like when a person speaks out against anything. And if a group feels really strongly about something and someone speaks against that, often the discussion gets really heated very fast. And this is completely tied into stress. And stress is trying to defend yourself way too often. So, you know, the next time somebody says something rude to you, at work, at home, or even if you're online and somebody makes a rude comment, you know, respond in kind, but don't let it wear you down. You know, don't let yourself be so engulfed by another person's idea that you are killing yourself by stressing yourself out over it. Because it's not, stress isn't always caused by things we need to get done. Sometimes stress is caused by things that we shouldn't have done, or things we shouldn't have said. And I've seen people who get eaten up for, you know, decades over something that happened when they were a kid or a teenager, something they can't resolve. Sometimes it's a sexual abuse, which is a very difficult thing for people to overcome, and that causes stress. Sometimes it's verbal or mental or physical abuse. Those are very difficult to overcome, and that goes along with programming, you know, the parental programming, which is why it's very important to remember and consciously be aware of your children when they ask you questions, to let them answer first, and to be honest when they ask you for answers to questions if they don't know them. I guess it goes down to the old Santa Claus thing, you know. You can teach your kids about Santa Claus, or you can be one of those parents that says, nope, it's all fake, and doesn't let your kid have any type of fantasy because you're afraid it will come back on you as a parent, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of parents that are like that. It seems to be the modern way. Like, the world we live in, people have often, like, we're trying to take a realist viewpoint now. Like, we feel like we've finally gotten away from religion to an extent. We haven't, of course. What I mean is religion doesn't control the masses as much as it used to in individual daily life. You know, you're not forced to pray. You're not forced to, you know, be part of the church. Neighbors aren't going to frown on you if you're not there on Sunday, that kind of stuff. And I think that some people have tried to take this too far. They've tried to completely abandon not just religion, but spirituality and everything. And then with that kind of goes imagination as well. So people are so afraid of teaching their children something that's not true that they don't want to teach their kids anything. You know, they're afraid to tell their kids about Santa, the Easter Bunny, any of those things. Those are just examples, but I guess it's no better than, you know, when your kid asks, how does this work? And instead of just admitting you don't know, you start making stuff up or whatnot. It's funny because when my kid asks me something, how does this work? And I'll say, I really don't know. And they'll say, but you know everything. It's like, yeah, right. Get a little bit older, you'll see I really don't know that much at all. Dads always know everything to their kids. So, yeah, stress, to tie that back in, stress comes with these little things that we do. I guess, like stress of even something as dumb as my child finding out that I lied to them about Santa Claus, you know. So it's taken me many years to be able to think of something that really stresses me out, or should stress me out. Such as sometimes I'll still wake up in the morning and I'll still have these moments of, shit, I've got to get this done, I've really got to do this. And morning is the time for that. Morning is the new awakening, the new birth. When you look at it archetypally, cyclically, it's the dawn of Earth, the dawn of the solar system, the dawn of the galaxy, the dawn of the universe. It's just a smaller version of this. It's a day cycle. And I know a lot of people understand the archetypes, but it's a lot don't. And they don't see that even the seasons, you know, like they talk, the dark winter of the man's soul. You know, winter is a time for, you know, starting over, and spring is for rebirth. Summer's for getting things done, you know. Fall is for finishing up, those kind of things. And in the day, it's the same way. You wake up in the morning and it's a new birth, a new day. You're born with the sun. And with that, you have the choice to take the day by the horns, you know, take the bull by the horns, whatever, and or you can sit and dwell on all the problems. I think that that's why it comes in the morning, because we're clear-headed. The day is ended. We go to sleep. We get have some dreams. You know, we wake up kind of a clean slate, and with that comes all of our problems pouring back. Shit, I should have brushed my teeth before bed, or, you know, oh God, I'm gonna have to get this bill's due tomorrow, or, you know, for me as a carpenter, it was an issue of work. I was like, great, how am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to finish this box or this cabinet? Because I was always going by, I have a system of my own, but everything I do is different as a carpenter. So I didn't know what it was going to look like completed, because I'd never done one. Whatever it may be, and this happened for years. I would stress over even I even had dreams one night about putting siding on my boss's house, because we had been working on his house for a week, and I was stressing in my dream because he was rushing me. And I started thinking, God, man, this is all my own creation. All of it. I'll get to work and everything's fine. Everything gets done. It's always done. The bill gets paid. You know, we move on. My teeth get brushed. You know, all that stuff. And I'm just like, so I worked on this for like 4 years, 5 years, to try to wake up, and every time I'm aware of a negative emotion, process it. But the one thing I've been able to finally get rid of, and this is the most important thing for me, is that feeling in your gut. When somebody says something they shouldn't, when you say something you shouldn't, when you think about something you shouldn't have done, or something you should do, basically that's stress, the butterflies. Not the good kind, but the bad kind. And that nervousness can follow you around and destroy your body. Yeah, your stomach is on overdrive, producing acids. Your bloodstream, you start to load up with not oxytocin, what's that stuff called? Stress causes cortisol. Cortisol in the bloodstream. And we have these, stress has a certain effect on the human body short term to give us endurance, fight or flight syndrome. But long term, it wears on the body extremely when you have all those endorphins and your adrenaline's pumping. These are things that we start to just live in stress, live in fear. And I'm just thinking that this is my decision to not let these things bother me, I think has contributed to my feeling of being young. I still feel young. I wouldn't say I look young, but I don't know. I don't judge my own, my own age. I really can't. I've looked in the mirror and like, how old do I look? I have no idea. But I'm not getting any really white hair. I don't know how much of that to attribute to genetics, because I know blonde hair people tend to gray later, or it shows up less. I notice it in my beard more, just a few strands. I don't really have much up here, but just a few in the beard. And I really embraced that. That's the one thing I wanted to leave on saying, was that my wife and I would talk years ago about, oh, I don't, she'd say she didn't want to get white hair. Of course, no woman wants to get white hair. Some do. But for me, for a guy, it's kind of like a, coming of age thing. Nobody wants to turn gray at 20, but not taking pride in it, but just accepting it for what it is and realizing it. And to tie this up, it's the one thing that really got me over this. The one thing that really pulled me, and I hope others can gain something from this, because I'd love to see people not fear death. Death is the #1 fear, and having discussions with people over how important fear really is, the fear of death, or some people will say, well, I don't fear death. I know I'm going to die. I just fear dying horribly, or I fear dying in pain. I don't. Really, I guess you can't fear that because you can't know it. And also, say you get maimed and you're laying there dying, bleeding, your body goes into shock. You don't have to worry about being in excruciating pain that long. Anyway, our body has ways of fighting these things off, and usually as people are dying, you see that they're accepting it. I've never watched anyone die myself, but by those I've talked to and those who, I've seen interviews with who've watched people die, which is the best I can do, they say that generally the people are at peace. They say, don't worry about it, I'm fine. So, it's not the fear of death. It's the fear of losing those that we love, and the fear of losing our own minds. So the only thing worse than death might be having dementia, honestly. And it really puts a serious burden on people, a stress to think, what happens when I lose this consciousness? What happens when I lose this mind of mine? Going crazy might as well be death for some people, because they're so attached to their coherency and being aware and knowing people and knowing their loved ones. Things like that make me wonder about other dimensions or afterlives, or whether or not our consciousness carries on. It's not our spirit. I'm sure that our essence carries on. Energy is never created or destroyed. But in what form? And I don't think people are too concerned about whether or not their essence lives on. They want to know whether they're going to be able to go into another realm and be aware of their past life. Say, oh, I remember this life now. Oh, it was so great. And here I am floating in space, or whatever. Getting over that fear is the #1 thing, I think, for everyone. The fear of death. I've talked with a lot of people about it, and I found that most people don't want to talk about it. I love to bring it up in an enlightening conversation and be like, oh, by the way, you're going to die one day. Just as a joke. I don't really do that very often, but with a good friend who understands where I'm coming from, some people would just look at me like I'm crazy if I said that, but being able to have that discussion is not as open as you would think with people. And it really is the ultimate fear that all other fears are based on. Whether you fear being maimed or dying in pain, it's the fear of death that ultimately causes stress. And because we're trying to do what we can in our lifetimes, we're trying to get what we can done. And this video has turned into a really long video. Holy crap. So I'll just leave it at that. Namaste, everybody. Don't stress. Peace.